Welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Foundations of Sand. Victor Lawson never considered himself extraordinary. At 49, he built a modest construction business from scratch after being laid off from his corporate job 15 years ago. His hands, once soft from typing reports, now bore calluses from occasional field work alongside his crews. He took pride in being self-made. In the 3-bedroom colonial home in Springfield, he provided for his family, and in putting his 3 sons through college without a cent of debt. The mirror reflected a man with salt and pepper hair, crow's feet around bright hazel eyes, and shoulders that still filled out his work shirts respectably. Not bad for almost 50, he thought, straightening his collar. Tomorrow was the big day, his 50th birthday. Diana, his wife of 27 years, had been suspiciously secretive about the celebration plans. "Don't worry about a thing," she'd said with that new smile he couldn't quite place. Ever since she'd started that marketing job at Newman Enterprises 2 years ago, something had shifted between them. Their conversations had grown shorter, their intimacy less frequent. "It's normal," his brother Terrence had assured him. 27 years is a long time. Passion ebbs and flows. But Victor sensed it was more than that. Diana came home later, often smelling of unfamiliar cologne she claimed was from hugging clients. Her phone was perpetually face down or locked. Still, he trusted her, or wanted to. His sons had changed too. Noah, 26, working at a prestigious law firm in the city, barely called. Liam, 24, a financial analyst, repeatedly delayed family visits. Anthony, 22, fresh out of business school, lived at home but rarely emerged from his room except to ask for money. Victor blamed himself for their distance. Had he worked too much while they were growing up? That evening, Diana arrived home nearly at midnight. "Last-minute preparations," she said, brushing past him. "Tomorrow will be unforgettable." Victor nodded, swallowing the question about why her lipstick was smudged. Trust, he reminded himself. 27 years earned some faith. Later, checking his email before bed, Victor found a message misdelivered from an unknown address to his account. "Everything's set for tomorrow. He has no idea what's coming." He stared at the screen, an uneasy feeling settling in his stomach. Probably just birthday surprise coordination, he reasoned, closing his laptop. Upstairs, Anthony's door opened a crack as Victor passed. "Dad," Anthony called softly. "Hey, buddy. Need something?" Anthony hesitated. "Just be ready for tomorrow, okay? Should I be worried?" Victor chuckled. "No, just." Anthony's expression was unreadable. "Never mind. Happy early birthday." Victor slept poorly that night, plagued by dreams of faceless laughter and doors closing in his face. Chapter 2. The Spectacle. The Oak Ridge Country Club's banquet hall buzzed with voices. Victor recognized business associates, extended family, and old friends mingling around elegantly decorated tables. Diana had obviously spared no expense, a fact that struck him as odd given their recent arguments about household budgets. "There he is," Diana's voice carried across the room. She wore a crimson dress that hugged her figure, her blonde hair styled in an elaborate updo. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Happy birthday, old man," Noah said, approaching with his brothers. All 3 wore matching suits Victor had never seen before. "We have a special presentation prepared," Liam added, exchanging glances with Diana. Victor's brother Terrence squeezed his shoulder. "You okay? You look tense." "Just surprised by all this," Victor answered, watching Diana whisper something to a tall, dark-haired man he didn't recognize. The man nodded, placing a hand briefly on Diana's lower back. "Everyone take your seats," Anthony announced. "The show's about to begin." Obediently, Victor sat at the central table. The lights dimmed, and a projector screen descended from the ceiling. "We've prepared something special," Noah spoke into a microphone. "A little retrospective we call The Life and Times of Victor Lawson." The screen illuminated with a title card, "Failure, a Life Story." What followed was meticulously edited footage and photos spanning decades. Victor missing a game-winning shot in high school, captioned athletic failure, his college rejection letters, the day his corporate bosses laid him off, business setbacks, arguments with Diana, caught on home videos he never knew existed. Between segments, Diana narrated in voiceover. He failed as a husband, failed as a father, and failed as a man. I left him because he couldn't satisfy me in any way. The room fell awkwardly silent except for scattered nervous laughter. Victor sat immobile, blood roaring in his ears. The finale showed all three sons alongside Diana and the dark-haired stranger who had his arm around her waist. And so, Liam concluded on screen, "We're legally changing our last name to Newman, after Russell Newman, our mother's true partner and our new role model." The screen went black. Russell Newman, the owner of the company where Diana worked, stood and took a theatrical bow. Victor slowly rose. Faces stared, some horrified, others amused, a few pitying. "Thank you all for coming," he said quietly. "Enjoy the rest of your evening." He walked out, ignoring Diana's performative call of, "Victor, don't be so sensitive." In his car, he sat motionless, then pulled out his phone to silence the incoming calls. The screen already showed 37 messages from guests. Chapter 3: Ashes and Embers. Victor spent 3 days in a budget motel, phone turn off, emerging only for vending machine food and whiskey from the liquor store across the street. On the 4th morning, he stared at himself in the spotted bathroom mirror and barely recognized the hollow-eyed stranger looking back. "Enough," he whispered. He showered, shaved, and drove to his bank, where he spoke with Bradley Wilson, the manager who'd approved his first business loan years ago. "Jesus, Victor," Bradley said when they sat at his office. "I heard what happened. Terrible business, just terrible. I need to know where I stand financially," Victor said. "Diana's been managing most of our accounts." Bradley's expression said everything before his words confirmed it. "I'm afraid Mrs. Lawson has been quite proactive. Most of your joint accounts were emptied last week. The business accounts are untouched since they're solely in your name, but there's been a freeze request filed against them pending divorce proceedings." "Divorce proceedings?" "The notice was served to your home yesterday. I assumed you knew." Victor nodded slowly. "What about the house?" "Remortgaged 3 months ago." "You signed the papers." Victor frowned. "I never signed any." He stopped, remembering the stack of business insurance documents Diana had presented him with while he was distracted with a major project bid. "I see," Victor said simply. Bradley leaned forward. "Look, Victor, I shouldn't say this, but as your friend, her new fellow Newman, he's got a reputation. 3 marriages, 3 messy divorces. Word is he enjoys the chase, then the destruction. The patterns are always similar." "A predator," Victor murmured, "and a connected one. Board memberships with the state licensing authorities, golf buddies with half the judges in the district. The kind of man who crushes opponents for sport." Victor stood. "Thank you, Bradley. What will you do?" Victor's expression hardened. "First, I'll find somewhere to live. Then a lawyer. After that, I'll start digging." Outside, Victor called Terrence from a new prepaid phone. "Jesus Christ, where have you been?" Terrence demanded. "Everyone's been looking for you. I needed time. I'm staying with you for a while." "Of course, but Vic," Diana's saying some pretty wild things. "That you were abusive, that you hid money, that you—" "All lies," Victor cut him off. "It's a scorched earth campaign. The boys are backing her story." Victor closed his eyes briefly. "They've made their choice. I'll need your workshop space. And complete discretion. What are you planning?" "Nothing illegal. Not yet, anyway. Just preparation." That night, in Terrence's guest room, Victor created a new email account and sent identical messages to Noah, Liam, and Anthony. "You have made your positions clear. I accept your decision to change your names and sever our relationship. I wish only that you had done it honestly, privately, rather than orchestrating a public humiliation. Despite everything, I hope you find what you're looking for in your new family arrangement. Victor Lawson." Then he opened a notebook and began writing 3 lists: assets, allies, and answers needed. Under a 4th heading, actions, he wrote just 1 line: They chose the battlefield, but I will choose the war. Chapter 4. Beneath the Surface. You look like hell, said Margot Davenport, sliding a cup of coffee across her cluttered desk. At 65, the private investigator had pepper-gray hair cropped short and eyes that missed nothing. But I've seen worse. Thanks for seeing me, Victor replied, taking a careful sip. 2 weeks had passed since his birthday. The divorce papers had officially arrived, demanding alimony that would bankrupt him, claiming his business had hidden assets, and requesting the house plus half his retirement funds. Bradley Wilson referred me, he continued. Said you're discreet and thorough. Bradley's a good egg. Now cut the small talk and tell me what you need. Victor placed a folder on her desk. I need to understand what happened to my life. The affair is obvious, but this level of coordination, the video presentation, my son's involvement, it feels manufactured. Margot scanned the documents he'd brought. Pretty standard wealthy man takedown. Seen it before, especially with this Newman character. 3 ex-wives, all initially middle-class women who ended up with substantial settlements. My wife wasn't exactly hunting for rich husbands. We built everything together. Maybe you were target practice. She tapped Newman's photo. This type typically has enablers, people who help craft these takedowns. The emotional devastation is part of the thrill. Victor leaned forward. I need evidence. Not just of the affair, but of the conspiracy. The coordination. How deep it goes. Margot studied him. Most men in your position just want ammunition for the divorce. This isn't about the divorce. They can have the money. Then what's it about? Victor's eyes hardened. Truth. And consequences. Margot nodded slowly. My fee is $200 an hour plus expenses. I'll need 3 weeks. You have 2. And I'll pay double your rate for priority. After leaving Margot's office, Victor drove to Parkville, a working-class neighborhood across town, and parked outside a small insurance office. Inside, Dominic Reeves looked up from his desk and broke into a wide smile. Victor fucking Lawson. Haven't seen you since the Henderson Project. They shook hands warmly. Dom had been Victor's first foreman before opening his insurance business. Need to file a claim? Dom asked. No. Need a job. Dom's eyebrows shot up. You're selling the business? No, but I'm keeping a low profile for a while. Divorce situation. Diana's trying to freeze my business assets, so I need off-books income until my lawyer sorts it out. Understanding dawned on Dom's face. The birthday thing. Heard rumors. Probably all true. Dom didn't pry further. I've been meaning to renovate the back office into an apartment. Could use experienced hands. Cash payment. Perfect. For the next 2 weeks, Victor worked 12-hour days renovating Dom's office, slept on Terrence's couch, and met with his lawyer, Sandra Ortiz, who specialized in high-conflict divorces. They're overreaching, Sandra told him. Newman's pulled this before, but usually with more groundwork. This feels rushed, meaning they've made mistakes. Keep your head down, don't retaliate publicly, and document everything. Meanwhile, Margot was earning her fee. Her first report detailed Diana's affair. 18 months, not the 2 years Victor had suspected, along with evidence Newman had pursued her aggressively after meeting her at a charity function. The second report was more disturbing. Newman had a private email server where he, Diana, and the boys had planned the birthday humiliation over 3 months, with Newman coaching them on what to say and how to gather embarrassing material. Most shocking was the third report. Newman had approached Victor's sons individually before the affair began. Casual meetings, mentorship offers, promises of connections. The grooming had started before Diana was even in the picture. He targeted your entire family, Margot explained, showing Victor surveillance photos of Newman with Noah at an exclusive club dated 3 months before Diana started working for him. Diana wasn't the predator. She was another prey item. But once recruited, she became an active participant. Victor absorbed this silently. There's something else, Margot continued. Newman's company is struggling. 2 failed product launches, an SEC investigation that was quietly closed, and rumors of cash flow problems. His lifestyle hasn't changed, but he needs money, Victor finished. And Diana thinks I have it hidden somewhere. Exactly. Victor paid Margot her fee plus a generous bonus. I may need more help later. Just be careful, she warned. Newman's got a vindictive streak. Previous adversaries have had mysterious accidents, though nothing was ever proven. That night, Victor added extensive notes to his growing plan. The pieces were falling into place, but he needed more leverage, time, and above all, patience. Chapter 5. Counter-moves. Victor's temporary office was a storage room at his construction company's warehouse. His operations manager, Floyd Peterson, was the only employee who knew where to find him. Another certified letter from her lawyer, Floyd said, dropping an envelope on Victor's makeshift desk. And Newman's been sniffing around, asking questions about company finances. Victor opened the letter. Now, they're claiming I've hidden assets in cryptocurrency. Creative. What's our play, boss? Victor looked up. Floyd, a bearish man with 30 years in construction, crossed his arms. I've worked for you 15 years. You gave me this job when no one else would hire an ex-con. You think I'm jumping ship because your wife's playing dirty? Victor felt a rush of gratitude. They're trying to devalue the company before asset division. We need to appear struggling, but not failing. So, selective project delays? Supply chain issues? Exactly. Nothing that hurts our clients, just enough paper trail to show cash flow concerns. Over the next month, Victor maintained his low profile while carefully orchestrating his company's apparent struggles. Sandra Ortiz advised him on exactly how far he could go without raising legal red flags. Meanwhile, Victor cultivated relationships with Newman's 3 ex-wives, approaching them carefully through Margot's connections. The first, Bevelyn Morley, now ran a successful interior design business. Russell's a vampire, she told Victor over coffee. He doesn't just want women. He wants families he can consume. Breaking up your family wasn't incidental. It was the point. But why my family specifically? Bevelyn studied him. Did you ever refuse him something? A business deal? A favor? Victor thought back. 3 years ago, my company was bidding on a development project. Newman wanted inside information on our bid so his friend could undercut us. I refused. That'd do it. He collects slights like trophies. The second ex-wife, Teresa Kemp, was initially hesitant to meet, but eventually agreed. The sons were new, she admitted. With me, it was my sister he turned against me. But the pattern's the same. Isolate, replace, destroy. She provided Victor with records showing Newman's financial manipulations during their divorce. Useful templates for what Victor might expect. The third ex-wife proved most valuable. Patricia Welsh had fought back against Newman and suffered for it. After signing an NDA as part of her settlement, she wouldn't speak directly about Newman, but she introduced Victor to Kent Bailey, her former private investigator. Kent was retired now, tending bar at a dive called the Rusty Nail. Newman's got a system, he explained, pouring Victor a whiskey after closing. Find a target family. Identify the weakest connections, usually between father and children. Exploit. After the family's destabilized, go after the assets. How does he find these weaknesses? Kent snorted. Social media. Usually. Your kids oversharing about family fights. Employees with grudges. He's got people who compile dossiers. People like who? There's a lawyer, Vince Schultz. Does the dirty work, keeps Newman's hands clean. And a woman, Moira Lancaster, runs a PR firm that's really Newman's personal intelligence agency. Victor added these names to his growing map of Newman's network. Each conversation revealed more about the spider's web he was caught in, and more importantly, where the weak strands might be. But Newman wasn't sitting idle. Victor's company lost 3 major bids to suspicious undercutting. Building inspectors suddenly found minor violations at his active job sites. A key employee was poached with an offer too good to refuse. Most painful was the wall of silence from his sons. The divorce filings included affidavits from all 3, repeating Diana's fabricated claims of emotional abuse and financial manipulation. Public opinion in their social circles had turned decisively against Victor. On a rainy Tuesday, Victor returned to Terrence's house to find Diana waiting in the driveway. "You're looking rough," she said, umbrella in hand. "Living like this while I'm in our house, doesn't that bother you?" "What do you want, Diana?" Russell is growing impatient. These delaying tactics with a divorce, they're not working in your favor. Tell Russell patience is a virtue. Diana stepped closer. We know about your offshore accounts, Victor, the shell companies. Russell has people who can find anything. Victor almost laughed. There were no offshore accounts. Is that what he promised you? My imaginary millions. Something flickered in Diana's eyes. Stop fighting this. Take the settlement offer. 20% of the business, the vacation cabin. Walk away with dignity. Like you did at my birthday party? She flinched slightly. That was necessary to make a clean break. Tell me something, Victor said quietly. When did he first approach Noah? Was it at that charity golf tournament 2 years ago? Diana's face paled slightly. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. I think you're starting to realize exactly what kind of man you've allied yourself with, and what he really wants. You don't know anything, she snapped, but uncertainty had crept into her voice. I know Russell Newman better than you think. Tell him I'm looking forward to our next meeting. After Diana left, Victor called Margot. I need everything you can find on Vince Schultz and Maura Lancaster. And I think it's time for Phase 2. Chapter 6, Foundations of Stone. The rusty nail was nearly empty on Sunday afternoon when Victor arrived for his meeting with Maura Lancaster. Getting her here had required careful manipulation, an anonymous tip about a potential high-profile client, the promise of information on a competitor, and subtle pressure points Margot had identified. Moira was younger than Victor expected, perhaps early 40s, with a severe bob and calculating eyes. This better be worth my time, she said, sliding into the booth opposite him. Thank you for coming, Ms. Lancaster. Victor pushed a folder across the table. I believe you've been compiling information on me and my family for Russell Newman. Her expression didn't change, but her fingers tensed around her water glass. I don't know what you're talking about. Let's not waste time. I know about Newman's system. Target, isolate, replace, destroy. I know you provide the intelligence for the targeting phase. She started to stand. Victor held up a hand. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to hire you. That stopped her. Excuse me. Russell Newman is a parasite. You know it better than most. You've witnessed the pattern over and over, and I suspect you're getting tired of it. Her eyes narrowed. You can't afford me. I can't afford your firm, but I can afford you personally, especially with what I know about your creative accounting practices. Color drained from her face. How did you? Russell isn't the only one who can gather intelligence. I need information on Newman, the kind only an insider would have. In return, I'll pay triple your usual rate, and certain documentation about tax irregularities at Lancaster PR will disappear. For a long moment, Moira studied him. Finally, what exactly do you want? Everything. Financial records, client communications, personal habits, points of vulnerability. He'll destroy me if he finds out. Only if he's still in a position to do so. By Thursday, Victor had compiled a comprehensive dossier on Russell Newman. Legitimate business interests intertwined with questionable dealings, evidence of blackmail, records of payments to building inspectors who'd suddenly found problems with Victor's projects. More valuable were the personal details. Newman's gambling habit disguised as investment meetings in Atlantic City. His sexual harassment settlements with 3 former employees. His manipulative relationships with Diana and Victor's sons. Most importantly, Moira confirmed Victor's growing suspicion. Newman's company was on the verge of collapse. The man was leveraged to the eyeballs, using new victims' assets to pay off debts from previous ventures. He desperately needed Victor's company, not just a settlement, but full control. Armed with this knowledge, Victor accelerated his plans. He met with Floyd and his most trusted employees to restructure the company. On paper, it appeared to be faltering, with project delays and cost overruns. In reality, Victor was shifting assets, creating contingency plans, and laying the groundwork for what would come next. Meanwhile, Diana had begun calling him repeatedly, her messages growing increasingly desperate as Newman pressured her about the lack of progress in securing Victor's assets. During a rare court appearance for the divorce proceedings, Victor noticed the strain showing on Diana's face. Newman sat beside her, externally composed, but drumming his fingers impatiently on the table. When the judge granted another delay due to incomplete financial discovery, Newman's mask slipped briefly, revealing naked fury. Outside the courthouse, Victor felt a hand on his arm. It was Anthony, his youngest son, looking uncomfortable in an expensive suit that didn't quite fit him. "We need to talk," Anthony said quietly. "Not here." They met at a diner 20 miles outside town. Anthony slid into the booth, eyes darting nervously. "Russell's not what we thought," he began without preamble. "The things he promised, the connections, the opportunities, they haven't materialized. Instead, he's been demanding." "Demanding what?" "Information about your business. Access to your computer. Anything that might help them find where you've hidden the money." Anthony's fingers made air quotes. "Dad, is there hidden money?" Victor studied his son's face. "Would it matter if there was?" Anthony looked down. "At first, maybe. We believed what Mom and Russell told us. That you've been secretive, controlling. That you held the family back. The birthday thing. It wasn't my idea, but I went along with it. Why come to me now?" "Last week, I overheard Russell on the phone. He was talking about what happens when Lawson is out of the picture." It didn't sound metaphorical. A cold weight settled in Victor's stomach. "Has he threatened me directly?" "Not exactly, but he's obsessed with breaking you. And lately, he's been meeting with some sketchy people. Ex-military types." Anthony swallowed hard. "Dad, I think he's dangerous. Really dangerous. So why warn me? Why not just let it play out?" Anthony's eyes welled up. "Because you're my father, and I made a terrible mistake." Victor reached across the table and gripped his son's hand. "Listen carefully. I have a plan, but I need to know if I can trust you." "You can. I swear." "Then here's what I need you to do." That night, Victor called an emergency meeting with his team: Margot, Sandra Ortiz, Terrence, Floyd, and now Anthony. In Terrence's garage, surrounded by maps and documents, Victor outlined what they'd learned and what came next. "Newman's desperate and dangerous," he concluded. "He's accelerating his timeline because his financial house of cards is collapsing. We need to move faster than planned." "What about Mom?" Anthony asked. "Is she in danger?" "Only from her own choices," Victor replied. "But we'll give her one chance to get clear before we proceed." Margot raised an eyebrow. "You still care about her?" "After everything. 27 years leaves marks," Victor said simply. "But make no mistake, I haven't forgotten what she did. What any of them did. And I won't forgive it." He turned to the whiteboard where he'd mapped out Newman's vulnerabilities. "Newman chose the most public, humiliating way to destroy me. We're going to return the favor, but with one key difference." "What's that?" Sandra asked. Victor's smile was cold. "Everything we do will be absolutely, unquestionably legal. He won't see it coming until it's too late." Chapter 7. The Trap is Sprung. The Springfield Business Excellence Awards was the social event of the season, bringing together the city's elite for an evening of recognition and networking. Russell Newman attended annually, using the event to court investors and intimidate rivals. This year, he arrived with Diana on his arm, both immaculately dressed, smiling for photographers. Newman appeared confident, though insiders noted he'd been drinking heavily at the pre-event reception. "Quite a turnout," Diana murmured, scanning the ballroom. "Is that Victor at table 7? Newman's head snapped around. Indeed, Victor Lawson sat at a prominent table, engaged in animated conversation with Bradley Wilson and several bank executives. He looked better than Diana had seen him in months. Tailored suit, trimmed hair, relaxed posture. "Ignore him," Newman growled. "He's putting on a show, trying to make us think he's not desperate." Their table companions included Newman's lawyer, Vince Schultz, and 2 potential investors Newman had been courting. Noticeably absent were Noah and Liam Lawson Newman, who had abruptly canceled that morning. The ceremony began with standard speeches and awards for community service and innovation. Then the MC announced, "Our final award tonight is special. The Phoenix Award for a business that has overcome significant challenges to emerge stronger. This year's recipient, Victor Lawson of Lawson Construction." Applause filled the room as Victor approached the podium. Newman clutched his whiskey glass so tightly Diana feared it might shatter. "Thank you," Victor began. "The past year has indeed presented challenges. some business-related, others quite personal. Soft laughter rippled through the crowd. Everyone knew about the birthday disaster. But challenges reveal character. They show us who stands with us when things get difficult. I'm fortunate to have discovered both my true enemies and my true friends. Victor's gaze swept the room, briefly meeting Diana's eyes before continuing. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that Lawson Construction has secured exclusive contracts with Meridian developers for 3 major projects totaling over $40 million. Gasps and murmurs spread through the audience. Meridian was Newman's biggest competitor, and these contracts represented the largest development deal in the city's history. Additionally, Victor continued, I've established the Lawson Integrity Foundation, dedicated to supporting victims of financial predation and family manipulation. The foundation's first public report on predatory patterns in business and personal relationships will be published next week. Newman stood abruptly, bumping the table and spilling drinks. This is a farce, he hissed to Diana. We're leaving. But as they turned to go, 2 men in suits approached their table. Mr. Newman? I'm Agent Donovan with the FBI. This is Agent Miller. We need to speak with you immediately regarding certain financial irregularities at Newman Enterprises. The room fell silent as Newman was escorted out, his face ashen. Diana remained frozen in her seat, watching her carefully constructed new life implode in real time. After the ceremony, Victor approached her table. You should call your lawyer, he said quietly. Things are about to get complicated. What have you done? She whispered. Nothing illegal. Unlike your boyfriend. You placed a business card on the table. This attorney specializes in helping partners of individuals under federal investigation. You might need her. Anthony met Victor at the valet stand. It worked, he said, voice trembling with adrenaline. Exactly like you said it would. Victor nodded. Newman's been running a Ponzi scheme through his investment division. Once Moira gave us the documentation, it was simply a matter of presenting it to the right authorities. And Noah and Liam? They received similar information this morning, along with evidence of how Newman manipulated them against me. Their absence tonight was telling. In the weeks that followed, the full extent of Newman's crimes became public. The FBI investigation revealed a pattern of fraud stretching back years. Newman's carefully constructed empire began crumbling under scrutiny. Victor had been meticulous. Every piece of evidence was obtained legally. Every move was documented and witnessed. Newman's attempts to claim entrapment or conspiracy fell flat against the mountain of evidence compiled by Maura Lancaster, who had turned state's witness. Diana filed for divorce from Newman barely a month after his arrest, claiming she'd been deceived about his character and business practices. Her attempt to reconcile with Victor met with a polite but firm refusal. The divorce is final next week, he told her during their last meeting. You'll receive exactly what the law entitles you to. No more, no less. I don't wish you ill, Diana, but I don't wish you well either. You're simply someone I used to know. Chapter 8. Accounting of Souls. Rain pelted the windows of Victor's new downtown apartment as he reviewed the final settlement documents. The divorce had concluded with Diana receiving considerably less than she'd expected. The house required extensive repairs due to recently discovered foundation issues, and Victor's business had recorded its lowest quarterly profits in 5 years during the asset evaluation period. What Diana didn't know was that Victor had strategically timed these setbacks to coincide with the divorce proceedings, with projects deliberately delayed and revenue temporarily diverted through legal but complex means. The moment the divorce was finalized, Lawson Construction miraculously recovered, with the Meridian contracts moving forward at full speed. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Anthony stood in the hallway, soaking wet. I didn't know where else to go, he said. Noah and Liam won't talk to me since I testified. Victor ushered him inside. Have you spoken to your mother? She's leaving town, selling the house. Says there's nothing left for her here. Anthony peeled off his wet jacket. She wanted me to ask you something. About the timing of everything. Newman's arrest, the Meridian contracts, the foundation issues at the house. She thinks you planned it all. And what do you think? Anthony met his father's eyes. I think you gave everyone exactly what they deserved. Victor nodded slightly. How are your brothers handling Newman's upcoming trial? Badly. They've been subpoenaed as witnesses. The name change paperwork is stuck in legal limbo because of the ongoing investigation. They're furious with me for switching sides. You didn't switch sides, Anthony. You recognized a mistake and tried to make it right. There's a difference. The next morning, Victor met Noah at a coffee shop near the courthouse. His oldest son looked haggard, with dark circles under his eyes and a nervous tick in his left cheek. Thanks for coming, Noah said stiffly. You said it was important. Noah pushed a folder across the table. My testimony for Newman's trial. I thought you should see it. Victor scanned the document, his expression unchanged. Noah had detailed how Newman had approached him, gradually poisoning him against his father with promises and manipulations. Why show me this? Because I want you to know I understand what happened, how we were used. Noah's voice cracked slightly, but also because I need you to know that before Newman, there was already distance between us, real problems that made us vulnerable to him. Victor closed the folder. I know that. Will you ever forgive us? Victor studied his oldest son. Forgiveness isn't something I'm capable of right now. Maybe never. But I'm willing to acknowledge that Newman is primarily responsible for what happened. And Mom, your mother made her choices, as did you and Liam. And Anthony found his way back. That counts for something. Noah nodded slowly. The foundation you started. The one investigating people like Newman. Liam and I want to help. Anonymously at first. It doesn't fix anything, but it's a start, Victor conceded. Russell Newman's trial became a media sensation. Each day revealed new details of his schemes, his manipulation of vulnerable families, his financial frauds. Victor attended sporadically, sitting silently at the back of the courtroom, watching Newman's carefully constructed facade crumble under the weight of evidence. Diana testified early in the proceedings, claiming she'd been another victim. On the stand, she looked older, subdued, her designer clothes replaced by a modest suit. Her expression contrite as she described how Newman had systematically isolated me from my ethical foundations. When she saw Victor in the gallery, she nodded slightly. He did not nod back. Noah and Liam testified about Newman's grooming tactics, how he'd exploited existing family tensions and gradually turned them against their father. Their testimonies were damning, painting Newman as a calculating predator who targeted entire families. Victor's own testimony was brief and factual. He described Newman's approach, the birthday humiliation, and the subsequent harassment, all without emotion or embellishment. His calm recounting made the events all the more shocking. After court adjourned that day, Victor found Liam waiting by his car. I've been offered a job in Chicago, Liam said without preamble. I'm taking it. Fresh start. Probably wise, Victor replied. I don't expect forgiveness, Liam continued. But I want you to know I'll be making monthly donations to your foundation. Under my birth name, Lawson. Victor unlocked his car. Good luck in Chicago, Liam. That's it? Just good luck? What did you expect? A tearful reconciliation? You participated in my public humiliation. You signed court documents accusing me of abuse. Actions have consequences. Liam swallowed hard. Do you hate us? Victor paused before answering. No. Hate requires energy I'm no longer willing to expend on the past. I've rebuilt my life without you in it. That's neither punishment nor revenge. It's simply reality. As Liam walked away, shoulders slumped, Victor felt nothing but a distant, hollow ache where family bonds had once been. Chapter 9. New Foundations. 1 year after the infamous birthday party, Victor stood on the observation deck of Springfield's tallest building, overlooking the city lights. The Meridian Lawson Plaza was nearing completion below, the first of 3 major developments that had transformed his company from respectable to prominent. His phone vibrated with a text from Terrence. Everything's set for tomorrow. Tomorrow. His 51st birthday. Unlike last year, this would be a small gathering. Terrence, Floyd, Margot, Sandra, and Anthony. People who had stood by him, who had helped him rise from the ashes. Russell Newman had been sentenced to 12 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to multiple fraud charges. His empire had collapsed entirely, with creditors fighting over the remains. Vince Schultz had been disbarred. Moira Lancaster had received immunity for her cooperation and moved to Seattle to start over. Diana had eventually settled in Phoenix, taking a marketing position with a mid-sized firm. According to Anthony, who maintained limited contact, she was getting by, but not thriving. She had sent Victor a long letter of apology 6 months after the divorce. He had read it once, then filed it away without response. Noah had remained in Springfield, gradually rebuilding a cautious relationship with Victor centered primarily around a loss and integrity foundation. They met monthly to discuss foundation business, their personal interactions still formal, but no longer hostile. Liam rarely communicated directly, though his promised donations to the foundation arrived punctually every month. And Anthony, Victor glanced at his watch. Anthony would be arriving any minute for their weekly dinner. His youngest son had enrolled in business courses at the local university and worked part-time at Lawson Construction, learning the business from the ground up. Forgiveness remained elusive, but routine had created its own form of healing. Not the restoration of what was lost, but the construction of something new on solid ground. "Thought I'd find you up here," Anthony said, stepping onto the observation deck. "Pre-birthday reflection?" Victor turned, offering a small smile. "Something like that. Any regrets?" "About how everything played out?" Victor considered the question. Newman's destruction had been comprehensive. The man had lost everything: freedom, reputation, wealth. Diana had been publicly humiliated as both victim and accomplice. Noah and Liam lived with the consequences of their betrayal daily. "No," Victor said finally. "Everyone made their choices, including me. Mom called today," Anthony said carefully. "Wanted to know if you ever mention her." "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That you've moved on. That you don't look back." Victor nodded, turning again to the cityscape. Below, construction lights illuminated his newest project, physical proof of his resurrection. "She wanted me to ask if you'd ever consider talking to her again," Anthony continued. "Even just once for closure. There's nothing to say. The past is settled." They stood in silence for a moment before Anthony spoke again. "You know, for what it's worth, I think you won." Victor shook his head slightly. "It was never about winning. It was about surviving, then rebuilding, on my terms. Still, you came out stronger. Stronger in some ways. Different in others." Victor checked his watch. "Dinner reservations in 20 minutes. Shall we?" As they walked to the elevator, Victor reflected on the journey of the past year. He had lost a family, but gained clarity. The people who had tried to destroy him had instead forced a reckoning, compelling him to discover reserves of strength he hadn't known he possessed. Tomorrow he would turn 51, surrounded by people who had proven their loyalty. His company was thriving. His foundation was making a difference for others who had been targeted by predators like Newman. The trap he had set had sprung perfectly, delivering precisely calibrated consequences to each person involved in his humiliation. Not through violence or illegal means, but through patience, intelligence, and the meticulous exploitation of his enemy's weaknesses. Diana had wanted a wealthy provider and found a prison of her own making. Newman had wanted to destroy a man, but destroyed himself instead. Noah and Liam had betrayed their father for promised advantages that never materialized, left now with regret and damaged reputations. And Victor? He had wanted justice, and he had created it with his own hands. As the elevator descended, Anthony asked, "What's next?" Victor considered the question. The past was settled. The accounts balanced. The debts paid. "Whatever I choose," he answered simply, "on foundations no one can shake." And there you have it, another story